And we are recording with Dr. Andrew Huff on Monday, June 12th, 2023 at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. We are coming at you from an undisclosed location. Dr. Huff and I are both in a nuclear bunker because we are the deep state. We are in control, and you guys are right. I'm controlled opposition. Dr. Huff is one of my minions, and together, me, Dr. Huff, and Dr. Malone are taking down the Republic.
I'm actually probably one of the best CIA agents ever.
Yeah.
I've managed to convince at least 80% of the health freedom movement that I'm not CIA.
I'm so CIA, I don't know I'm CIA. That's how good my training is I have truly forgotten my backstory, and I just think I'm a fucking guy named Tommy. That's how legit I am. I make Jason Bourne look like a pussy.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, that was a great show. Thanks for coming on, Dr. Hoff. So for everyone that doesn't know your book, the truth about Wuhan, the link to that will be in the description, as so will be the link to your Twitter. Real quick, could you just tell everyone who you are and kind of what your background is, because it is pretty wild.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Andrew Huff. My doctorate is in epidemiology, specifically environmental health science with an emerging infectious disease specialty track. So that means I uh, specialize in emerging infectious diseases, whether they be foodborne or bacteria or any other pathogen you can think of. I'm disease agnostic. I got there by chance. I was an opportunist, and I just chased different opportunities throughout my life. Before that, I had a master's degree in security technology, so I'm a bit of a geek and a nerd. I'm a pretty crappy engineer, but I know enough to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And my undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I was going to go on to be a psychologist. And I started doing clinical externships, and I decided I had a terrible bedside manner. I hated it. And I really liked research, though. I love the psychological aspect, or excuse me, the research aspect of psychology research. And along this crazy path, what else? So I started my career in the military. I'm going a little bit backwards here, jumping around, but I served as an infantryman in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in Central America. Worked with a lot of spooky people down there. Really, that's when I really got to see the world for what it is. That was my moment, the Operation Enduring Freedom deployment, where I saw what was really going on in the world, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I think I was 20, 21 years old, and it was just so eye opening. I never really looked at the world the same again. So fast forward back to when I was a PhD student, I worked at the Department of Homeland Security Center of Excellence at the University of Minnesota, where I became an expert in biowarfare, bioweapons, and my specialty was poisoning people at scale. So how could I kill 250,000 people by poisoning the food supply? And so I became a niche expert in this. That's what I did my dissertation on. And I presented this all throughout Washington, D.C. And I was spending about 1 week on average per month in Washington, D.C., being introduced to all the different three-letter agency people that worked in national security. So I worked across all the different agencies, presented my work. And when I finished my program, in record pace, I might add, about 2.5 years, which is almost unheard of for a PhD, they said basically, where would you like to work? And it was an open-ended question. I could go work anywhere in the government, corporate America. They were going to get me placed. They were trying to push me into the State Department, wink, wink, CIA. And I actually really wanted to go work at Sandia National Laboratories, where I felt they were working on the most complex like tools in national security and platforms, using intelligence to make all these really sophisticated predictive analytics stuff, which I was really into. Went and worked there, and some of my funding fell through, and not really that it fell through, but sequestration. There's a lot of budget cuts to the laboratories. A lot of the funding I was promised um, didn't come through later on, and I really got sick of all my work being classified. So when you're working in public health and infectious disease emergence and outbreaks, it's my opinion that none of that work should really be classified, because diseases, when they start to spread, nobody wants to get sick. So you have to understand that there is no strategic benefit to keeping biosurveillance data secret or classified in some way, because the assumption is that nobody else wants to get sick. And the only way to stop an outbreak from spreading is to notify everyone as fast as possible and make information open source. Well, there's a number of different things that I didn't like about working in the classified space. And I'm like, I'm done working in the military defense complex. I'm going to go work somewhere else. And I started looking around, and I found this awesome job at this place called Eco Health Alliance. as a senior scientist, and it was like exact. I mean, it was like the position description was written for me. Maybe it was, but
I was
they were
going to say maybe it was, man.
yeah, I know. It's so the things you learn about the world, but they're looking for somebody who had strong quantitative and modeling skills. They wanted someone who had field ecology and disease skills. They wanted someone who had environmental health skills. So they had this impossible list of things, and I happened to check the box on all of them. I interviewed with Dr. Peter Daszak a few weeks after applying over the telephone, was flown out, did the formal interview. The grilling academic PhD interviews are a really grueling process. I hate going through it. I mean, they're all day events plus dinners, and they're really high stress because you're really being grilled as a scientist in every one of these meetings you go to. And I was offered the job about a week after I interviewed, and I was actually hired to turn around this data and technology team that was failing. My previous the person who I was replacing, who had just left, had left on bad terms. I didn't really know why, and I was just massively successful. I brought in about $6 or $7 million of funding in my first year. Many scientists don't do that within their entire career, and at that time I was 32, I think 33. I was pretty young, and I was promoted to vice president. And that's when the wheels sort of came off the bus. So once I'm promoted to vice president, I start sitting in all the different meetings that are happening at the company, and I get to really see what's going on in other aspects of the company, see what's happening financially, and everything is just a hot mess. And for the audience that hasn't heard of EcoHealth Alliance, this is the organization that funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So you might know where I'm going with this. So anyways, I decided to leave the organization because there are just all sorts of non-kosher things happening. Dr. Peter Daszak was just a terrible egomaniac, and he couldn't be reasoned with. He actually lied to me and tried to humiliate me publicly as a executive at the company, when I don't really know why he even did it, but all these things I actually discuss in my book. And it was because of all my knowledge up until that point, and that brings me to about 2016 in my career. When COVID emerges in 2019, I quickly put all the pieces together what happened, because I had worked on the classified side of bioweapons, biological research. I really understood the programs and what was going on. I understood what the programmatic aspects and goals of the US government. And I just figured it out. And it was a wild ride. I mean, the government came after me pretty hard in 2021 and 2022. There's still some lingering hacks that occur, but anyways, that's all behind me now. We're actually moving forward with a number of different lawsuits which I'm involved with, and it seems to be increasing by the week now. So I'm serving as an expert in several different cases right now, both state and federal. I'm filing more of my own cases, and unfortunately I can't talk about the cases in too much detail. I can refer you to the book, because now that some of these cases, these particular cases are being filed, they will be under seal, and I'm not allowed to talk about them.
Okay. Well, you just robbed me of my next question, you mother.
Well, ask the question, and I'll just say whether or not I can answer it.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is one thing I wanted to point out that you haven't pointed out is in your book, it's how you were offered like a high level clearance somewhere, and you, in hindsight, theorized that because they were offering you this thing, basically, if I recall correctly, they're kind of bypassing a lot of the normal formalities and might electron microscope up your ass kind of background checks to get this clearance. And you theorize that they wanted to give you this clearance so that you could never fucking talk about what you were doing, simply because it'd be like if it's like I'm doing this podcast with you, and they gave me a clearance. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And by the way, you can never interview Dr. Malone or Dr. Huff again, and you have to delete all your former interviews with them because now it's national security. I'd be like, what? And it said, well, now it's Mr. Carrigan's treason if you talk about this. Could you go into that? Because I think that's one of the most
you're pretty close. So what happened after
Is it
2016?
DARPA,
I leave. Yeah, you're getting close. So
IARPA, BARDA,
I leave EcoHealth Alliance, and then I go on to be a professor at Michigan State University and a hospital epidemiologist there. And I do that for 3 years. And I really did this as a favor to my wife, because she had been working with the USDA as a federal scientist, and she was hating it, and she wanted to go back and be a professor. I never wanted to go back to academia, but I'm like, okay, I'll go back if you want to go back. So we both go back. And after 3 years, I'm telling her, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go to corporate America because that's where I'm happiest. And so I start looking for new things to do, new job opportunities. And then I get contacted actually out of the blue by Juul Laboratories, the e-cigarette company. And I become the senior director of population health because I actually used to do a lot of research on nicotine e-vapor products and the harmful health effects or potential health effects. And they needed me to solve their public health problem that they were having. Well, in the fall of 2019, I received a call from Dr. Amy Jenkins from DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And Dr. Amy Jenkins, I was introduced to her, a lot of Amy's here, by Dr. Amy Kircher at the University of Minnesota. So she was a former like DOD executive civilian in public health. She was in charge of North America. She has all these pictures in her office, like shaking hands with George Bush. She's a very smart woman, very fierce. So she introduced me to Dr. Amy Jenkins as a PhD student, and I'm sort of told that she works with DOD intelligence. Okay, and I see her at a bunch of different meetings in DC, so I understand what her role is. Like, she's never talking about too much what she's doing in detail, but she's at all these meetings. Okay, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong there. But what's strange in 2019, when I hear from her out of the blue, she calls me on a new phone number, which none of my old national security contacts had. I mean, this phone was only 2-3 months old. Okay. And then she offers me a position, or she's encouraging me to apply. Basically,
sorry, calls you on a new your new number.
My new number.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
My new cell number. Nobody in my old work history has this phone number, but she calls me on it. And then offers me the position to be a program manager, program officer at DARPA, the biologics program related to COVID. And at the time, like, I knew nothing about COVID, but this would have been the program. And I tell her, I'm not interested in this. How much does this job pay? Because I'm making a killing, okay, being a tech executive. And the second thing is, I don't want a national security clearance again. I don't want to get top secret. I don't want a polygraph. I don't want this bull crap. I just wanted to get away from that. And I asked her, like, do I have to have top secret clearance? Do I have to move back to the Beltway? Yes. What does it pay? $150K a year. I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want it. Well, go home and talk with your wife about it. Let's talk again tomorrow. And I do, and tell her, no, I'm not interested. I'm like, she's like, you really sure you'd be perfect for this? Really give me the hard press. I'm like, no, Amy, thank you very much for thinking of me. I'm not interested. Well, about 2.5 months later, COVID happens. Coincidence? I don't know. But if you look at the facts of when SARS-CoV-2 COVID emerged, so we know that it emerged sometime in the summer, late summer, early fall of 2019. That's a fact. And a lot of scientists agree to it now. A lot of the national security community has publicly stated this now. So I used to build these tools and platforms for the intelligence community that they use to detect infectious disease outbreaks. I know how well they work. I know their limitations. And I quickly pieced together in 2020 that Dr. Amy Jenkins likely contacted me because they knew that I would know what happened. And if you think back about the gaslighting that we experienced through 2020, 2021, and into 2022 related to the origin of COVID, mRNA jabs, the PSYOPs, which have all been now proven to be true through Twitter files and these other outlets, DOD was trying to silence me. I mean, it's very apparent.
Give you clearance, so you shut the fuck up.
Yeah, they'd read me into the program so I'd be quiet. And the ridiculousness of this problem of them doing that and immediately going into cover-up mode is that everybody can tolerate a laboratory mistake. And even if it causes a pandemic, it's happened before. I point this out to people. There have been laboratory leaks that have caused pandemics before, and nobody really thinks about it or knows about it. And except for people like the nerds and geeks in my small world of emerging infectious disease epidemiology, it's a really niche, small world, actually. And then this whole thing becomes hyped and glorified, and all the fear and the propaganda to push the injections. It's sort of like a bad dream. But looking forward, the government just needs to take a different approach if this ever happens again. I can guarantee you that there's going to be another lab leak that causes a pandemic. And the reason why I'll say that is that, okay, we can look at the past history. It's happened before. It happened again. And humans, we're risk prone, and we're bad at managing risk, and accidents happen, especially with things that are highly infectious that you can't see. I mean, that's the whole nature of the beast. You can't see it, you know? So if you've been exposed, by the time you were exposed, it's too late, because the next thing you know, you're sick. And by the time you're sick, it's spreading. And that's how it works.
What are some examples of this happening before? I was unaware.
Yeah, 1977, 78 swine flu came out of a Russian laboratory.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the effects of the disease were not,
As
so
pronounced early. Yeah.
it didn't have the mortality or the morbidity that SARS-CoV-2 did. And that's why people probably look at it different, because that's always an okay.
Gotcha.
So if this would have leaked out of the lab, if SARS-CoV-2 would have came out, it would have caused the sniffles. No, the government probably would have, nobody would have said anything, nobody would have noticed, and the government would be like, oh, you know, don't let that happen again, you know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know, like everyone had some weird sniffles this year, but because of the problems that it had with it, and it was used, the disaster was used to manipulate society in a lot of adverse ways. I mean, the cover up was worse than the crime, and then all these opportunists decided to get rich off of it.
So let's jump into that then. Is because there are, you know, obviously there's a million ways to look at it. What was it, an accident followed by opportunists to, you know, it's like the people that are, you know, it's like 9/11 was engineered versus 9/11 happened by terrorists. And it's like, yeah, regardless, Raytheon, you know, cashed in. It's, you know, whatever. The effect is still the same. Are there opportunists from a lab leak to just maximize fiduciary outcomes? Or is it, I mean, really, is it really covering up like, oh, fuck, we were funding Wuhan? Or is there something? Because when you have psyops, to me, that looks more premeditated. In my complete lack of experience and zero, you know, fucking clearances and never working in the Beltway.
Well, I don't know this for a fact, and this is me speculating, but I'm guessing that the psyops were probably already written down,
More likely than not.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the military works. I mean,
that is Raven Rock by Garrett Graff, probably my favorite book ever. Talks about all that shit, and back to Eisenhower. Dude, all these laws, all this shit's written. They're on. It's on the shelf, ready for war, and you just whip it out and stamp it.
Do you have a blankie on right now? A blanket?
Yeah, I do. Fuck yeah, dude. I got
you have the air conditioning up too high? What?
Yeah, well, dude, I didn't have air conditioning forever, and I went through this whole fucking saga of ordering air conditioners that didn't work, and I finally got some that work. So I got these little portable ones. I got this little studio. I got 10,000 BTU air conditioner in here. It's fucking freezing, but I love it. So I got a cozy blanket. What?
Save the planet. Turn it down a notch.
Fuck off. I hate the planet. No, turn that shit up, dude. Turn that bitch up. I good. Let's burn this motherfucker down. Yeah. Well, also everything runs better. These 4K cameras, if they overheat, they'll shut off, which sucks. So I do crank up the AC. So yeah, I have a blanket. You got a problem with that? I'll defend my blanket. I don't give a shit.
You have to say it like Michael Jackson in South Park.
How did Michael Jackson talk in South Park?
Blanket.
Blanket. Oh, I don't know why I was thinking Mike Tyson.
Sort of.
This is my blanket. This is my favorite blanket. So do you think the psyops are probably there as like so the president's whisked to Air Force One after the planes hit the towers. We fly them all around. We bring them out to Offutt, throw them in that bunker. That was probably the game plan for a myriad of national security issues, is throw them on Air Force One and bring them to a bunker, right? That's not necessarily unique to 9/11. Cheney going to Peoc under the White House, again, probably was going to happen for just about anything, not necessarily a fingerprint thing related only to 9/11. Something like this psyop, just in general, is in case of cover up, break glass. Do you think it's something like that?
There's no reason for the U.S. government to have to lie to the population about these kind of events. That's really my hang up. So the assumption of running a psyop is that Americans can't handle the truth. And I think the real way to move forward and move ahead is that when we have these difficult issues, if the United States government has any culpability, which is certainly the case with SARS-CoV-2, instead of covering it out, just come out and tell us what the problem is and what happened, and we'll deal with it. Running the psychological operation doesn't help anyone.
Okay, but you and I, that's talking about like what should happen, right? There's
Yeah.
big difference between what should. Yeah, I'm with you. What should happen is that, but that's not what happened. So it's the government also shouldn't have their hand up the puppet's ass of social media, but they do because people are assholes.
Well, it's
So
getting
what?
well, you have to realize social media is the psyop. I mean, this is what I've tweeted about this on Twitter, and I don't think anyone really picks up on it. So my theory on why Twitter and platforms like that exist,
They're
Instagram,
allowed to flourish is because the government allows them to flourish. You allow monopoly status so long, and we won't revoke it so long as you do what we say.
but why?
So we can control the narrative.
No, I don't think it's quite. Well, I mean, that's one aspect of it, but I think there's another. If you have people glued to their social media all day, they're not outside burning down buildings.
That's another thing. And you also control their view of the world.
Yeah, well,
If
their
I'm looking through
perspective.
a phone all day, if I don't have
I think
contact,
what it does is they actually. It's not that you control their view of the world. You I think it's a little more nuanced than that. You're able to control which box or which social schema you fit into.
well,
So, so,
you can
so it
control
doesn't. Go ahead.
you control their perception of the crowd. So if it's just me and I look at and I'm locked down, let's say during a pandemic, and I get on YouTube and I look at a video that says these vaccines are safe and effective, and it says 3.2 million thumbs up and there's no negative comments, well, then my mind is well, fuck, a loaded football stadium's 100,000. So this is 32 football stadiums. If people all saying thumbs up, well, fuck. I mean, I can't see outside. I'm just in a little apartment. That means everyone's for this. I should probably be for it too. But the reality is 3.2 M is really just pixels on a screen. I have no idea how many people really gave it a thumbs up. I have no idea how many. Hey, how many people are really watching Jimmy Fallon on the Tonight Show fucking talk with Miss Piggy and Muppets like a fucking lobotomy victim? You don't know that. Or it's just YouTube putting digits on a screen. It could say 3.2K, which is probably how many views him and John Oliver are really getting on YouTube. But you switch a K to an M, and all of a sudden you have the perception of a lot more people are watching. So you're also controlling what people think. If I'm looking at a comment section and most people are saying this vaccine's dangerous, my mom took it and then dropped dead, but those are shadow banned out of it, well, I'm not seeing any negative comments. So you very much so, by having people plugged into a phone, and that is, kind of poetically, that little square is your window to the world. And thus you look around, you don't see the crowds of people. You just see numbers on a screen that say 100,000 people liked this comment. You then controls your perception. And you go, well, if everyone likes it, then I guess everyone should like it. I should shut up too. It very much so has an effect on if I go to a football game and everyone's cheering, I'm certain everyone around me is cheering. If I'm looking at a phone and it says everyone's cheering, I just have to take that as fact. Does that make sense? I mean, I could also just be slowly losing touch with reality. So, that I could also just be having a mental break. I don't know.
Well, I think that does make sense, and I view it more as this. It's not just so much managing the crowd. It's it's taking it's looking at the crowd and saying, well, what different boxes or groups can we get these people to associate with? Because so the obvious first divide is you have right and left. Okay, so you have left people and right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see how far we can push everyone to the right. Let's see how far we can push everyone to the left. But then there's
Subcategorize.
there's subcategories, and actually, I don't believe it's 2-dimensional. I believe it's 4-dimensional. And you're going to have libertarians, right? One group on the spectrum. Okay, on the opposite side of libertarians, you probably have, I guess, what, fascists or communists, and then you have traditional left and right. So they push people into those different areas of the sphere, or the you can look at it as a quadrant, different corners of the quadrant, and that's what social media does. And then once they get there, they amplify the psyops. What they do is they amplify more pressure to keep that narrative within that corner of spectrum going, because if nobody can agree to what's happening in the sphere, then basically the deep state, or the government or the executive branches, has carte blanche to do whatever they want, because nobody knows what's true.
Just constant fog of war.
Well, yeah, everyone's in a constant fog, because the whole idea is if you keep everyone confused about what's really happening, well, everyone says, screw it. They go to the work and they're
fuck it. Yeah.
Going to work, I'm drinking beer, I'm a happy peasant.
Yeah, how much time of the day do you really have to focus on what's going on? Yeah, you got a couple minutes on the toilet looking at the phone. People are like, this is evil, and someone's like, this didn't even happen. It's a deep fake. And you're like, fuck it, whatever. You just Yeah, man, I don't know. And then, if the logic is divide and conquer, well, then that logic would follow from more than just left and right. You'd want to divide and conquer within those groups, right? You want to
Yeah.
control everyone, you have left versus right. Well, then how do you control the left? Well, you'd have to divide and conquer within the left and within the right, and on and on and on. You'd want to just keep bifurcating and breaking. But what about
Or,
like life?
or you nudge people even deeper into the corner, right? So if you can find
Sure.
someone who's like center left, maybe we can push them all the way left.
Yeah. You don't want some rational person that's like, I understand the left and the right. No, you want to push them. You either got to chop your dick off and dye your hair neon pink and scream, I'm a foxkin, or you got to be some hardcore, like, fundamentalist, like Jesus was an American. Like, you can't have middle ground, because then that's when you unify and realize you're getting fucked by the people at the top.
Well, exactly, and they were actively trying to do that to me. So they're all, remember all these food facility fires which sort of dried up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, I did several different interviews where I'm talking about like, hey, I had these data stolen from my house, and it matches where all these food facilities were attacked. Well, then I was asked to go on an interview, and there was no prep for the interview. And then they started asking me about this specific event in Texas, and I came out and I said, I'm like, it looks like that's just natural kind of accident or disaster. And the journalist was shocked, and I don't know if they even aired it because it didn't go along with the narrative and maybe what the box they were trying to paint me in. And it was a type of facility where accidental fires occur. It had a lot of manure, and manure catches fire. And I grew up in the Midwest around a lot of dairy farms, and you can actually go peel back a manure pile in the summer with a pitchfork and it'll catch fire.
You can't do that with hay bales too.
Yeah, hay bale sometimes if it starts to
Like,
decompose,
there's like bacteria inside or
yep, the
something.
bacteria gets really hot. And
Fucking
yeah, I've
wild
seen
shit.
plenty of manure fires like on a hot July day. The bacteria are replicating, they're eating really fast, and down that manure pile, it gets close to combustion temperature. And if you flip it and expose it to air, it ignites.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Jesus. Um, Back to the social media thing. Do you ever think about the whole life log? Where it's like it was a DARPA program and it ended, and then like the next day Facebook started. Like the next day. It was
I'm
like
not
February.
familiar with
Look it up. Life log. It's like it like ended. It was a DARPA program about, like, making a social media thing. So essentially people surveil themselves. Hi puppy. And it
that. Yeah,
ended on like,
this guy isn't at his walk, and he's going to come over and be annoying. So I have to give him a walk
hey
after
dude,
we're
I
done.
understand that. I
My
respect it.
apologies. I don't want to interrupt, but if
No,
I
I
don't,
res- no,
he'll
I res-
start barking.
no, I respect that. Hey puppy. No, you no freaking take what's yours, buddy. Don't push around Dr. Huff. Tell him to fuck off. I'm with you. I stand in solidarity with the dog. I think LifeLog ended on like February 3rd, 2003, and then like February 4th, 2003, Facebook started. It's just odd shit like that it seems like they are seeding this. All this stuff comes from it.
Well, if you look at so push the dog off me. So
No, you're
if you
fine.
look at devices, right? So you have the first is the iPad, right? And I don't know if did you ever have a Gen 1 iPad before the iPhone existed?
I don't think iPads didn't exist before the iPhone.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Not
So
Apple.
Apple. So no, it was an iPod Touch, it was called. It was an
Yeah, I had an iPod Touch. Yeah,
iPod Touch was the precursor to the iPhone.
yeah.
It basically didn't have LTE in it. And so someone got smart and said, okay, now we have the smartphone thing. It's the new best spy device. Let's get one into everyone's hands. Let's push this. Let's help these companies out making this technology, because as I've experienced in the government hacks, what they do, and through either like Pegasus software or US government owned product or made product, is they turn every device into your house into a spy device. And Edward Snowden talked about this back in 2014. It's 2023. And the botnet that they create is it's insane, and it's almost can't be defeated. And once this malware gets onto one of your machines, it just spreads to everything. Anything that's turned on, it spreads to. And whatever the capabilities of that piece of hardware and software, they exploit it. And basically your house becomes one big listening device. And it's pretty creepy. And I went through another round of hacks last week, and I spent a considerable amount of time defeating it. And it's sophisticated stuff. I mean, you have to know an IT thing or two to be able to get around it. But this is the world we're in. I mean, we're living in a surveillance state. The devices have only progressed. So we had smartphones. Now we have smartwatches. Okay. Apple iOS, this watch thing that you wear, if you wear a smartwatch, I mean, think about it. This thing is collecting your respiration. It can tell you maybe a little bit about your blood pressure. I mean, there's other kinds of health metrics they can capture off that. And if I were the government and I had access to this, I would then start measuring the effectiveness of psyops they're exposed
Sure.
to see what works,
Get
right?
your
And
heart
I
rate.
can
Yeah.
guarantee you, I mean, I can guarantee you that someone in the government is doing it. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but why wouldn't you? I mean, I
Well,
had
what?
the I used to develop this stuff. Why wouldn't you?
Why would you not do Pavlovian response too? Why would you not, I don't know, monitor
Conditioning, yeah.
someone? Why would you not monitor someone's heart rate when they are on TikTok or whatever? And then when they come on to Tommy's podcast and listen to Dr. Huff talk about engineered viruses, why would you not then add your own stimuli to make them a little uncomfortable? How about you change
I've
the
never engineered a virus in my life.
no, but we're talking about it. No, we're
Yeah.
talking about it. And I know you haven't. You invented the nuclear bomb. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
But
right.
like, yeah, Oppenheimer's about you. But why wouldn't you then add your own stimuli? So I mean, much like a putting, I don't know, an electric collar on a dog, why wouldn't you, change the refresh rate of a phone or change the light that comes off of it or change the different wavelengths of it to make you more agitated? So when that you're viewing, I don't know. Do you remember when Chris Cuomo, that fucking faggot, came out like several years ago during like the riots and he was like, remember, no, it was before that. It was like, remember the WikiLeaks. He was like, you're not supposed to look at that on your own. We're supposed to get it from us, the media. And it really was like, don't you dare look at this and think for yourself. It was like WikiLeaks regarding like Hillary Clinton or some shit. Why wouldn't you then do something like that to where if you're perusing, I don't know, the Twitter files, like a Matt Taibbi thread, or if you're trying to look up like the Epstein client list, why wouldn't you then add a negative stimuli to that person and then remove it when they're doing something like ordering McDonald's on DoorDash or watching brain dead TikTok videos? Why would you not add stimuli like that? And if you could trace it through their, I guess, biophysiological feedback via like an Apple Watch, why wouldn't you? Or, facial recognition, you
Yeah,
could look at
you'd run
micro
something
mus.
called a multi-factor analysis or principal components analysis to do basically grouping. So how the science behind this works is you would take each TikTok video or each stimuli, and you would, as a human, you'd say, okay, we believe this is scary, or we believe this is intimidating, or we believe will elicit a happy response. And then you measure, okay, the actual responses, and you can either automate that or use humans to either train software or to review the facial expressions or the heart rate. The heart rate's easy to automate, but facial expressions is not quite as easy with machine learning, camera technology. It's gotten a lot better. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's perfect. So yeah, you can take a look at all this stuff, and then you go back and then you look at these groupings of how you first classified it. You're like, okay, this was a scary response, but this thing that we thought was scary, it grouped for whatever reason, it grouped with the happiness. Like when you actually do the statistics behind it and you look at it and you're like, okay, well, it grouped with all of the happiness. So this is how then they refine the model. Okay.
Mm.
And that's how they would refine the PSYOP. And then after it's grouped with this other group, you could say, okay, well, this is how you properly use the tool. And then what you do, you would reclassify it,
Mm-hmm.
and you would retest it. And then you see if you got the same group. And if you did, boom, golden.
Yeah. So then was COVID a test? Or maybe not from the get go, but you could look at it and go, hey, let's make the most out of this spilled milk and call it a test. How did the world
Well,
respond to a pandemic?
everything that we do is a test.
Well, sure. I mean, sure, but
Think about the text message exchange. What did I respond at 4040 or 505? I think you sent me a text message.
yeah, you said it's a test.
Yeah.
Were you referring to COVID or are you referring to me
Oh
saying
no,
T
no,
minus
just
1 hour?
yeah, an hour, because I had an impossible workload I had to accomplish within 15 minutes to get in a car to drive to be present for this.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's a test. It was an inside joke and you didn't understand the punchline, but
Didn't understand it at all.
no, of course. But my point is that everything we do in life is a test, and everything's a learning experience. So not that there's anything nefarious about it. Of course, people are going to try to exploit things. Everything is a test. Everything you do is you're being evaluated. It's continual and constant, and that's life. And I think that because I'm hyper competitive, I always look at everything as a competition.
Well, sure.
Everything
So do I. I time my workouts every day. I see if I can not do it myself. I get you. I mean, I time myself. How quickly could I make the thumbnails for tomorrow's episodes? I just try to do it faster. How quickly can I cook eggs? Like I'm always doing that, and that's all well
You
and
can't cook
good.
eggs any faster. They just have, unless you, no.
Well, if you put the frying pan down first, start heating it up, and then start like whisking the egg, so you can actually start to cut time. But the point is, this is sure everything's a test, and that's like a nice gay Hallmark card. But I mean, specifically for this, you want to specifically for this. This is a test. How did the world respond to something? How quickly did the fog of war lift? How many months did it take before people start to realize the mRNA shots were giving people blood clots? There's a lot of testing behind this with real money and power consolidation behind it. So this is an actual value, not in some faggoty, well, we all fall down. It depends on how you get up. I get that. I get the the Andy Griffith, the fucking Norman Rockwell painting of like, it's all about learning and getting better. But really, I don't think that this thing necessarily just happened. Does that make sense?
Well,
I'm not attacking you and
you
saying that's
could
what you're saying.
argue that it was destined to happen. So when I worked at Eco Health Alliance, a couple facts which I talk about in the book. We were keenly aware of the lax laboratory safety and capabilities of foreign laboratories. And this was discussed at executive meetings. And a decision was made by Dr. Peter Daszak to keep doing the work with these laboratories. And there was other discussions, which I discussed in the book, where I brought up concerns specifically about doing this work with the Chinese, because I'm from a national security background. I'm an expert in biowarfare, bioterror, environmental health, sanitation, and laboratory safety, biosecurity, biosafety, all these things. Okay, I'm that guy at Eco Health Alliance. I see the risk, and I'm a patriot, and I love my country. Okay, die hard, still love this country despite all our flaws. I asked the question, why are we doing this work with the Chinese? Okay, so it really takes a man like Dr. Peter Daszak, whose ego is so large, and his thirst for power and money can't be quenched, to be able to engage in these high risk activities perpetually without seeing the black swan. He didn't see the black swan. And have you read Nicholas Taleb's book about black swans?
I've heard what's the definition of black swan?
Black swan is a rare event which has it's difficult to calculate the probability of occurrence because it's unknown. Okay. So you don't have so there's different ways of talking about this.
Rumsfeldian unknown unknowns.
In statistics, they would say you don't know what the parameter space is. So
okay.
So using logic, if you were to try to use logic to solve the problem, if you know the parameter space, you can run a series, either mathematical, statistic, or theoretical tests to figure out what the likelihood of something is.
Gotcha.
But if you don't know what the space is, how do you use logic to find out the answer? And you can't. And the context in which Taleb writes about this in his book is that he uses the financial crisis of 2008 as being a black swan. And there's an interesting aspect to black swans, and I used to be really deep into this, and I couldn't get anyone to publish the work. And the only people that like talking about it actually were the other super smart, intelligent people that I worked with at the National Lab. We talked about black swans quite a bit. And my theory behind it, and this has not been tested, and I should write this up, is that it has to do with complexity. And part of this has been discussed, and Taleb talks about this a little bit too, is that anytime you have a complex system, the more complex the system becomes, the greater the probability that there's a black swan lying in there somewhere, because you don't understand all the dynamics,
all the interactions
of the system. Now, and this is talk about there's two different types of systems. You have human systems and engineered systems. So engineered systems are like a car. Okay. If there's a catastrophic failure on a piston, it's pretty easy to determine what the consequence of that will be in any condition that the vehicle is operated. Okay. Sure. Now, when you add humans into the mix, okay, take that same car for an example. Well, the problem is, how is the person going to react when a piston goes shooting through the hood at 90 miles an hour? If they're driving, maybe they're driving abusively at 100, something rare, like 120 miles an hour. It's a sedan that, maybe hits its rev limiter. Maybe it's 105, whatever it is. Piston goes shooting through the roof. How's the human going to react? He or she going to swerve and go in the ditch and crash the car and tumble it? That's a black swan kind of event.
Yeah.
And so the other aspect of, so you have two axes here. On the y-axis, you have complexity. On the x-axis, you have coupling. Coupling means is how tight are the tolerances of each one of these variables or factors inside the model or the thing that you're talking about. So when there's tight coupling, there's lower tolerance for error. So an example that people can understand tight coupling is aeronautics or spacecraft.
Yeah.
They're tightly coupled systems, because if you look at how everything is machined and how precision is, it only takes a tiny little fraction of an error in the machining or the operation of it to cause a catastrophic event.
The O-ring and the Challenger. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you have a tightly coupled system, which is also highly complex, and you have a lot of human variability or incentive for bad behaviors, bad things happen. And that basically explains high containment laboratory failures. And in the case of SARS-CoV-2, it's even worse than that, because they were working with these dangerous agents in the wrong system. So the system that they were working in was a BSL-2, okay, with these airborne infectious diseases, but they should have been doing it in a BSL-3 or 4. And so here you have tight coupling, you have something that's highly complex, and you're not even using the right rule book or playbook to deal with it. And that's why SARS-CoV-2 emerges. And this is why it's a laboratory accident is likely to happen again, whether or not it's in a BSL-3 or 4 laboratory, because once again, it's hard to measure and identify a problem that you can't see. And maybe the technology will improve, but even if it does, I don't think the biosafety and biosecurity technology will ever eliminate this human risk problem. Now, the way to do that is you could totally automate the system, right? So instead of actually having humans in the laboratory manipulating these agents, you could actually build a completely closed system, like a reactor, essentially, have robots on the inside doing all this type of work. And then if you're able to do it that way, then a human never has to come in contact with a sealed environment. Yeah. And so the only risk then is like with a reactor where the seal cracks and breaks and then radiation leaks. Okay. Or if you have to have some, eventually though, because it's a laboratory, you have to have things coming in and out. So these become weak points, but humans in the loop are always the problem. If you look at, Chernobyl, for example, the human loop in the loop was the problem.
Yeah.
If you look at Fukushima, which was a natural disaster, the human in the loop in that problem was them not thinking about
the placement of the backup generators.
That's not necessarily the issue. I mean, that was the problem. But the reason why they had that problem was that they didn't anticipate 2 natural disasters at once. They didn't think that they get hit with an earthquake and then a tsunami. So when the engineers designed Fukushima, they designed it for an earthquake, or they designed it for a tsunami, but not for both.
Which is kind of retarded, because aren't those often paired?
Hey,
tectonic shifting.
This is what I'm getting at.
I got you. The human.
This is how
increasing complexities, tolerances. Yeah.
And it happens to all of us. Like, we get stressed. We're tired. You just want to get the job done. You want to check the box. And if you look at SARS-CoV-2's emergence in Wuhan, it's all of these things, like on the American side, on the Chinese side. And, I like to say, like, well, if it wasn't for us, for the United States transferring this advanced biotechnology sooner, or the United States missing the warning signs, this wouldn't have happened, which is true. But that doesn't put all the blame on the US. I mean, really, who deserves all the blame are the Chinese for leaking this, okay? Because they were doing all of this in terrible conditions. even though that the United States were sort of hand waving it, we get slapped on the wrist or the hand for allowing them to do this in the first place.
But we also knew they do shit in terrible conditions.
Well, we didn't know.
That's no mystery.
Well, there's two different aspects to that. I think, and this is speculation on my part, I think the government had a pretty good idea that they were working in unsafe conditions. My guess is they didn't know how bad it really was. So when they're doing a lot of this, the Chinese, I mean, what they do is they lie, cheat, steal, and cut corners. So when the U.S. government, these cables, these other reports of these bad conditions in Wuhan, they probably didn't really know exactly how bad it was because the Chinese are probably trying to hide it from us. And who knows if that's, but.
And I mean, back to Black Swan events. I mean, you run the human simulation a million times in fall of 2019, probably COVID sometimes. And it's like, maybe there's some alternative parallel where COVID didn't happen, but fucking a nuclear reactor blew up or some shit. And it's like, man, there's 8 billion self-aware sentient nodes on this planet with national security and clearances and profit motive and technological growth and cultural differences. And yeah, man, it's like we are on a unicycle on a tightrope, fucking, juggling flaming flamethrowers. We might run this simulation a million times and go, COVID, that's the least worst thing that happened. Like, hell yeah. Like it could have been so much worse. And it's like, that might be the reality of it, man. I mean, how many people died from COVID around the world? What, 7 million, 6 million? Is that what they're estimating? I mean, who the fuck knows what it actually is, but whatever the official number is. So 1 out of every, 1,000, 1 out of every 1,100 humans. Man, all things considered, it's not a whole lot. Not to sound like some Kissinger motherfucker, but like, it's not a whole lot. All things considered.
Things to consider, though, because the fact that it's completely avoidable is pretty terrible.
Sure, but how many things are completely avoidable? It's like we got through the Cold War without nuking the planet. I'm just trying to look at it as like we are focusing on it because it's bad and it happened and it was avoidable. But it's like,
well, I think it's one of those cases where the cover-up's worse than the crime, and I've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah,
now.
sure.
Okay, so first of all, they if you look at treatment protocols in the hospital, they push remdesivir on people. They incentivize people to put them on ventilators.
Mm-hmm.
This was the treatment protocol they push in. They put the SARS-CoV-2 injections up there. They use emergency use authorization to treat these people with this, or to inoculate people with this new experimental drug. It had terrible, tremendous side effects, worse than any other vaccine that we've ever brought to market. And they continue to push it on us, despite all the medical evidence and scientific evidence to the contrary. The lockdown strategy was failed. The children, the harm that did to our children in terms of their education and social development. The other harms to society, basically, it hasn't really fully recovered. I mean, everyone's still sitting in their houses and their phones and stuff. I mean, it has not recovered the same way. And when I go back to cities that were thriving, we had the summer of love, if you want to call it, where they're burning everything down, and then COVID happens, and these things drove big cities and Americans apart from each other. And if it weren't for the failed response strategy and the psychological operation about the origin of the disease, I think we'd be sitting in a lot of different place today. And in the economics, man, because of the lockdown strategy, I mean, look what it did to the deficit. Look what it's done to inflation. We can't catch up. We keep spending more money. I mean, all these things are somewhat related to each other. And the money isn't going, like this deficit spending money, the inflation, all the stuff. It's not going. The money's not going into. So first of all, inflation's a tax on all of us. Right. So it's a tax on average, everyday people, poor people the most, not rich people.
Yeah.
The second thing is all of I got a whiny puppy. All the COVID debt relief, all the COVID spending, this cash they injected into the economy went into the wealthiest companies. They shut down small businesses. This is what they did. Walmart became more powerful. Amazon became more powerful. In my state, I mean, it was ridiculous. You could go hang out at a Meijer or a Target or any other big box store, but you were prohibited from going to a small business.
Yeah.
Think small business. For what? What was the purpose behind that? What was the public health advantage to that? So you could go catch COVID at the grocery store?
Well,
I
then
mean, none of this makes sense.
well, it makes sense in the same way that it's speculation. If you want to kill off all the undergrowth and just leave huge trees, I mean, if you want to really burn off the entire middle class and mom and pop stores and just have a couple massive corporations left, so that it's easier to control just a handful of CEO. I mean, just looking at it from true Malthusian, if I want to run the world, it was brilliant. It's easier to control Amazon, Walmart, and Apple than it is to control 10,000 small companies.
Well,
I'm
what's the
not, I'm,
benefit? What's the benefit to that though? I mean, it makes your friends rich, but it makes everyone poor.
yeah, I don't think the people that have historically run the planet give a shit. I think they look at that, they go, yes, that's good.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Oh, no, I'm not saying for
I'm,
everyone. I'm
I was
saying the
looking at it from
fuckers
the
at the
perspective of you and me, and you're looking at
no,
it.
no, no. So you're looking at it from the viewpoint of a normal human being who, no. I'm not talking about normal people like us who, will think everyone should just have a happy life. No, I'm talking about the demons from hell that fuck children on islands. I'm talking about them. Yeah. To them, it's
Adrenochrome. Do you have
yeah.
yours?
Listen, guys. Listen. I'm gonna say it once. I'm gonna say it one more time. This is a spiritual war. I'm tired of pulling punches. I have the documents. No, but it is to them. Yeah, it's perfect. It's consolidation. The big fish eat the little fish. They just got a handful of big fish. Man, I mean, the Soviet system, you just got a handful of oligarchs, got to control them, and they control everything. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's good for the people that want to run the planet. Now, again, is it designed? I don't know. Could it just be an opportunistic? They see the targets aligning and they go, hey, take the shot? I don't know. The effect is the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, granted, we are completely wading out into the waters of pure speculation. I get that, but
So I'm curious. I know that you just had Robert Malone on what yesterday or the day before.
no. What's today? Monday. He
Yeah.
and Dr. Hatfield came on Thursday.
What did you guys chat about?
Well, they started talking, and I think they wanted to catch up. And every once in a while, if I paired two very smart guests together, I start to realize that like I'm an unneeded asset, and I just put them together. And I could see them kind of talking to one another, and I realized soon in I was like, oh, I'm here to just put the two together and to shut the fuck up. So I stopped talking, and they were just talking about I guess business ties and intelligence ties, and you never know when you're talking to people that are smarter than you and have like security clearances because you often feel like a kid and they're throwing a ball back and forth and you're jumping up trying to grab it. I think they're just pretty much talking about like how fucked our entire like biosecurity response is and how China's probably pulling ahead.
Well, they're pulling ahead and everything.
Well, yeah, which is why we're going to go to war with them.
Mm. You
I'm
think
not.
so?
Yes,
They need us spending money at Walmart though.
we're looking at them, and they now spend 1/3 of what we spend on defense. Just 10 years ago, they spent like 1/15 of what we spend. Okay.
Still, the third of the if you look at what that third represents, so the other 2/3 that we spend is quite a bit more.
Oh yeah. Oh no no. Oh no no. I'm with you. Again, I'm not defending this or backing the rationale. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. We are the hegemon. We're on. We are. We've been the king of the hill for a long time. We're not going to go down without a fight. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's moral. I'm not saying it's fair or ethical. And I'm not saying that we won't toast most of the earth to defend ourselves or defend our position. But we will do it. They're rising. We're not going to. They're trying to climb up into our top level. We're going to step on their fingers. I think we're trying to push Russia. I think we're trying to bankrupt Russia so that Russia has to join up with China. We just passed that Senate bill that says we will defend Taiwan. So now we're going to have a Taiwan and Ukraine. We're going to try to push Russia and China together into some new Soviet menace. And then we're hopefully just going to, destroy them over the course of a long Cold War and the West wins. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's probably what we're going to do.
I don't know. I'm not quite there yet because
I think we're an old angry lion.
China is a very corrupt place. They have an oligarchy, which is present in the Chinese Communist Party,
Yeah.
and they want to maintain their way of life just like we do.
Sure.
And when I went to Walmart today to get a thumb drive, the parking lot was packed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know why on a Monday at 3 o'clock the parking lot was packed.
Mayonnaise.
There wasn't a parking spot available, and business was booming at Walmart. And that's where those are the kind of places where China's getting, all its money. You look at these big box stores where people are just still consuming all the stuff made from China.
Yeah.
If that war broke out, that whole supply chain would shut down instantly.
Yeah.
All the ports on the west coast of the United States would just be dead. And we'd be then sourcing these things from Europe, Africa, or South America, or be making it in the United States. And China doesn't want that to happen. I mean, it totally, the one thing that everyone forgets is that we're so financially tied to China.
Oh no, we're both tied at the hip.
Yeah, but that prevents war.
Sure. Sure. It does seem like but the rhetoric is not congruent with that. The
Have you
rhetoric.
ever followed the rhetoric of Taiwan and China over the years?
Have I what?
Followed the rhetoric between Taiwan and China?
No.
I mean, the China does it. There's a pattern, and I've watched it ever since the late '80s when I started to take notice. China rattles its sabers. We're going to invade Taiwan. We're going to invade Taiwan. Yep. And then the U.S. runs carriers around, China and Taiwan and submarines and stuff, and they conduct a bunch of exercises together. And then China gets some better trade terms, and then it goes away. And it seems to repeat like every 2 years. It's repeating every 2 to 3 years, and the same kind of thing happens with North Korea every like 4 to 5 years. Like they're pissed off about how they're being treated or whatever. Next thing you know, they're testing a nuke.
I don't think we actually want war. I think we want, and this is kind of an idea I've been kicking around for the last couple months.
Well, who's we?
The United States, the power elite, the corporate intelligence,
government.
Yeah. I think they're one player. I mean, there's a bigger apparatus than them. The power, the C. Wright Mills power elite at the very top, the Iron Triangle, the revolving door, the military industrial complex, the fucking big swinging dick, for better or worse.
Tommy, this dog wants to go outside, and I'm gonna go let him out real quick. It'll take me 5 seconds.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no, but I mean, everyone that watches this knows I've been kicking around this idea for, a couple months now. I think we want a Cold War. I don't think we want a hot war. We don't want a hot war with people that don't live in huts. That's what I think. I think
hot wars. Hot wars are bad.
No, I think we want a Cold War. The only hot wars we want are with people
that. War either. The whole thing, where Kenny's right about this is that he kept on talking about the reinvestment we were supposed to get from us cutting the defense spending back in the American economy. We need to really cut defense spending. I don't care if you're a conservative or a liberal. We need to cut defense spending and focus more on diplomacy and investing in our own country. There's other ways that we can exert more influence and power globally than using the military, and diplomacy works.
I agree with that entirely. Again, you gotta understand, but everything I'm saying isn't something I like morally agree with. It's what I think is gonna happen, right?
Your audience doesn't know me, and they know you. I mean, they might recognize me. So
yeah, I get. No, I get it. Yeah, you gotta throw it out there. But that doesn't sound like anything we do, man. It's just historically we just fucking build the military bigger and bigger and bigger. I think now more than ever, it just seems like we're pushing for something. I mean, we are really going balls in on Ukraine for no real rational reason. I get the money laundering, yeah, sure. But man, I mean, we're rearranging like the global chess pieces for some backwoods fucking fuck shack called Ukraine full of Nazis. Like, why are we going so hard into this? Like it doesn't all add up. I mean, it's like a money. I've used this example before. And where my little brother went to college, there's this big building that said Piano Liquidators. And it's a college town. And he goes, "What do you think that is?" And I looked at it and I go, "That's money laundering." He goes, "Yeah, no one's selling fucking pianos at a fire rate sale in a college town. It's money laundering." So when I look at like we're just going so hardcore into Ukraine, it just doesn't add up. I don't know what we're doing. We seem to be beating the drums for war. I don't know why. It rationally doesn't make sense. But it seems like that's what we're. Who knows? Maybe it's not for U.S. hegemony. Maybe it's to bring down the U.S. I don't know what the rationale is. But it seems like that's what we're doing, is through hell or high water, we want war. I don't know why. It just seems like that's what I don't claim to know. It just seems like the powers that be want war in Ukraine, and we want to eventually make Taiwan another Ukraine and just rally everyone around it. I don't know why. I'm humble enough to say that I'm not smart enough to figure it out. I haven't figured out that Rubik's cube. I don't know, but it seems like we fucking want war.
Well, so if you look at Ukraine, I got the other dog over here whining now. I'll finish the statement. I'll let out dog number two. You have the Biden's tied financially to Ukraine. Okay.
Sure.
So they're being influenced. If you look at Ukraine and the history behind it, I mean, go back to 2014, it was a CIA coup that put Zelensky, our favorite naked actor, in charge of the country.
Yeah.
And this whole thing is about corruption, money laundering, and financial interest. And if you look at the Uniparty, and I know the Republicans hate it when I call a lot of the Republicans as being part of this, but it's all about supporting jobs and defense industrial jobs back in their congressional districts where all this money is flowing. And how about we start creating new technology? Like these people who work in all this defense contracting business, they're smart people. Okay, you look at like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and General Dynamics, all these companies. These are smart people. We can put them to work on spacecraft. We can put them to work on all sorts of their high tech stuff. Revolutionizing American infrastructure with new technology, new engineered systems. We have a huge problem in this country with old dams and bridges. Actually, we need new dams. Well, how about these? We put these guys to work building designing and making new crazy dams. Why don't we do the same thing with nuclear power? New smaller reactors, use thorium, something like that. There's all sorts of things we could be doing, but we're not. I'm gonna let dog number two out now.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to find it. There's a book.
All right, what's that?
Was it spoilers? Spoilers? I'm trying to find it. Why is my give me the might be Spoilers of War, Andrew Coburn. I think that was it.
Sorry about that. I know it's not typical, but
no, you're good. No, you're good. I'm trying to find it. I think it's Spoils of War by Andrew Coburn. Pronounces it Coburn. It's Cockburn, but Cockburn. Spoils of War. It's an all right book, but he does lay out an interesting hypothesis how the military industrial complex acts as an organism. He's not saying that this is some sentient thing, but he's saying it kind of obeys the same laws as an organism, as a decently complex organism, in that the way it prioritizes energy, I mean, like a cell bringing in fucking ATP or whatever, it prioritizes things coming in, and whenever it's threatened, and he points at it through the level of GDP that is the military industrial complex over whatever the last 10 presidents. Whenever it starts to go low, we always have some weird emergency or something, and how that president doesn't last, like a Carter or something, or a JFK, and we get rid of them whenever the wars start to scale down. And he kind of lays out an interesting, I mean, I might just be too dumb to poke holes in it, so I'm like, this makes sense. But he does lay out kind of a compelling argument that it's almost acting as an organism, and that it follows the path of least resistance. So although you and I look at it and go, well, there's a much more beautiful world that could be achieved if we took these brilliant people making IR seeker heads and instead had them build new dams, sure, we could have a better world, and through diplomacy and wealth and health, and sure. But again, he kind of lays it out as it's like this, it's almost like this dumb beast, but it's so fucking powerful that you can't rationally like tell a Tyrannosaurus Rex like, hey, start using your thumbs, it's just gonna bite your head off, and you can't really fight it with words. He kind of lays out the military industrial intelligence apparatus as this black hole of power and wealth and physical force projection, aircraft carriers and bombers and satellites, and all it's doing is just growing like a cancer. It is infinite growth on finite resources. There's no like pro or against argument. Oh, he says it's like it's evil, but he's just kind of laying a pretty almost like clinical evaluation of it. And to me, that's really like the only thing that kind of makes sense through all of this is I don't think any one person is running it. I think it's just this beast that has arisen. And if you ran the human simulation a million times, it would probably always arise. There'd probably just, in some parallel universe, there's a Chinese Dwight Eisenhower talking about the military industrial complex or whatever the fuck. I think it probably more often than not, this happens at a certain, and this could just be another phase of humanity, no different than the church running shit or the invention of stained glass windows in the printing press or whatever the fuck. It just seems like it's just this behemoth that has more strength than anyone, and it's just taking more and more and more. It's it's
Well, it's
not a
like
satis.
it's like gravity, right?
Yeah, very much. It's not a
Larger than
satisfying answer, but to me, it makes the most sense.
well, that's when all the little things and people being sucked into the center of gravity have to stand up and say, no, we don't want this.
Well, and that's kind of his thing. It's like, well, we have to wrestle power back from this apparatus that's robbing us. I mean, even Dwight Eisenhower said it, right? When the fighter jets flying over the Sabre fighter jet, that fighter jet overhead is the cost of 1,000 kids going to school. Every modern cruiser is the cost of 2,000 brick middle schools. Every, modern bomber is the cost of a new paper mill in a town. We are robbing we are robbing the poor of wealth. We are robbing the naked of food or whatever. And this is a 5-star general. This isn't some fucking tree hugging hippie. This is Dwight Eisenhower, and he's saying like we are robbing the world of its spoils. Like we should be living in a not in some idyllic fucking hippie utopia way, but
No,
I
but
mean
we shouldn't have like the homelessness and poverty problem in this country that we do.
we
I mean,
shouldn't have those while having B-21 Raiders
yeah,
stop commerce.
we should have new bridges. We should have
Yeah,
an autobahn like freeway system. I
we
mean,
should be we should be
I
much
mean,
farther ahead than we are.
yes, it's the thing that blows my mind when I travel. It's Croatia. Do you think of Croatia being a modern place? It has the most modern freeway system in Europe. And when you drive on it, it's incredible. I mean, it's like all LEDs in the pavement, tells you like, it's an adaptive road. So as you
Yeah,
drive on it, tells you, hey, weird thing up ahead, go to the right lane. And why don't we have that in the United States everywhere with what we're spending? And you can have that out in rural America. I mean, we can have these kind of systems in place. You can have, telephone cell boxes out in remote areas so people don't get stranded. I mean, just simple things, right? I mean,
it's it seems that
we can have a more responsive healthcare system with helicopters. I mean,
mm,
instead, think about like all the jets that we're flying. So you know what you do? You take with all these military pilots, make them medical pilots,
yeah,
and
not even that. Make drone choppers.
yeah, drone choppers, whatever. You're like, hey, you need to get the ambulance. Think about, one of the critical things in public health and medicine is that it's about response time. And they actually observed this in the military. One of the fun statistics about Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, especially talking about Afghanistan and Iraq, when I say OEF, is that one of the reasons why the casualty deaths was not as high in Iraq versus Vietnam was, well, one, there wasn't these tied up close engagements all the time. But the other aspect is that medical training, technology, triage, and response time
Was yeah.
they're all improved, and the response time was greatly shortened between the late 1960s and 2000s. And that's why so many other more service members were wounded but were not killed.
Yeah.
And imagine if we took that
And
approach
applied it to the work. Yeah.
to the civilian life.
I'm with you, man. It just there's the right. It's what they would talk about, like the corruption of the oligarchs or the mob or the whatever or cartels. They take when they're not just beheading people, is like they take such a large cut along the way that no real business can ever prosper
All
because
right,
you have.
Tom, you got a dog that has to come back in, otherwise he's gonna put a hole in my screen.
You're good, dude. You should. No, you're good, dude. Fuck. Um. Ugh.
This is not my MO, but there's nothing I can do.
Oh, dude, I don't care, man.
Are you gonna go hang out with Emily?
But
When do you schedule?
I
So
haven't
for the
scheduled anything with
audience,
it.
I know you're gonna edit this probably, but for your
I'm
audience,
not. I'm not editing shit.
oh, okay. So my wife's gonna be in town, and I've tried to arrange a three-way date between Tommy, Emily, and her boyfriend George.
I'm looking after her.
Oh, he made him have to take his glass off and breathe.
I'm looking. No, I know. I do that one. I do that when I'm laughing because I end up hitting the microphone and then my glasses get greasy. It's actually a tactical move. It seems like the military industrial complex is just kind of the inefficiency, let alone the moral and ethical problems of a mob or something, but it's the inefficiency of like an extrajudicial power structure that is taking cuts along the way. You can never get anything done. You can't build a fucking factory because every mob boss needs a cut along the way. So it
No,
seems
I don't think so. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it's that bad. You got to remember, people have to be incentivized to make money, right? And if you want,
no,
if you want to,
I don't think it's that bad. But what I mean is to even get into Congress, what we talked about is like the entire thing is just it's been an emergent phenomenon where now it's like if you're running in Atlanta, like you gotta be able to say, hey, I'm gonna give money to Martin Marietta so they can build the new fucking skin for the F-22 update. It's become a thing where it's like you almost have to pay fealty to the king, but there's no king. It just seems to be
only
this.
I think only if you're a weak candidate though, because if you look
Well, yeah, if you're a pussy, sure.
yeah, so but okay, AOC.
Yeah.
So she comes in, she runs on this like I'm a server, like
I'm a
the average person in Queens and Brooklyn, we're getting screwed, and she wins. And I don't necessarily agree with their politics, but you don't have to
No, you're
take
right.
national interest money to get in. You don't have to do it. You
That's
just have
right.
to. You get more votes actually by getting out and getting to know people and solving the problems that they're facing in the community. That's actually how the better way to get elected. The cheap, easy way, right, or the easy
Is
way is to get a lot of big backing and just run a social media psyop on your district, and that's how you get in. But you don't have to do it that way to win.
yeah. No, I'm with you. It doesn't have to be this way. And I also don't think I don't think all's lost. I really don't. I do think that it can get better, and I do think it will get better in time. I think ultimately we're in a phase. And it feels like it's forever because we're in it. And it's been, you go back to black and white Eisenhower talking about it, and it feels like it's forever. But man, I mean, what? Eisenhower was president when my grandparents were raising kids. What, 3 generations? That's nothing. It's a blink of an eye. I think we're probably in a phase of where we'll look back at it no different than we look back at kings or we'll look back at pharaohs. And sure, it can be forever, it can be 1,000 years, but it's still ultimately just a phase that ends that you learn about in a history book. So I don't think all is lost. I think we're just in a phase right now. And it's hard to see it looking better because it's what the fuck can I do with a podcast in a bedroom and I'm talking about taking on Raytheon. It's like, yeah, how fucking delusional can you be? I get it. I understand the humor of this, but I think it can get better. I mean, above all else, it might not even be from the goodness of hearts. It could very well just be profit motive. Someone just starts realizing, hey, brother, dude, there's a lot of fucking money for this new medevac drone fucking capabilities. Yeah, who cares?
You can still, what? You can still spend the money. Not, I'm saying we have to decrease spending, but just maybe in a transition period, we spend the same amount of much money, and then we get these guys transitioned off into new endeavors. And when
Yeah,
they become profitable, then we cut back the federal
yeah,
spending and create a new industry, a new economy.
yeah.
That's
It's
it.
it's like it's the drug industry. It's like we can't let them legalize marijuana, and it's like no, just Budweiser, just take your distribution capabilities and just start selling pre-rolled joints.
You
You
smoke
could
weed?
what?
You,
No, I don't, but you could
I
do
don't
that. No, I used to, but still. But the point is like it's you don't batten it out. Like you can sell that too. Like it doesn't just have to be alcohol. Why instead of avoiding weed, why not lean in and take over the market? Gives a shit, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Is take that judo it, take that profit motive, and you can still get your dirty fucking kickbacks and all that stuff, but instead of us building 1,000 B-52s, build some medevac drones. It's like, I mean, we
Yeah,
could just call it the medical drone complex. Like that's so much better than the military industrial one. Yeah, just build. Maybe we'll have too many medevacs, and maybe there will be some scandals, but that's better than us just like, fucking building 1,000,000 JDAMs a year or something.
I
I don't
couldn't
know.
agree more. Tommy,
Huff,
I
I was,
gotta go make some dinner
no, I was
now.
gonna say we're gonna wrap it up because my bladder's about to explode.
Your
Huff
bladder.
Carrigan 2028. We are running on a ticket together. We're not gonna win, and we'll probably both be killed, but it's gonna be a glorious endeavor.
If they were gonna kill me, they would have killed me already.
Yeah. Well, I might not be big enough yet. And if they kill me, maybe they won't. I don't know. No, they would have killed you already. That's a good point. So you're probably free.
Yeah, I'm free.
They haven't decided if I'm going to go on the chopping block yet. I don't think I'm big enough yet. But guys, go into the description. Go grab his book. Don't be a communist. Go support the good Dr. Huff. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on here. And as always, humoring my just totally unhinged rants and screaming. I appreciate
I
it.
love it.
Fuck yeah, dude. Dr. Huff, thank you so much for your time. Guys, please go in the description. Go follow him on Twitter. Go grab his book. Till next time. Thanks so much, man.